and good morning, friends. The topic that is given to Group 3 is government land. In the introduction to the assignment, I will be covering the following points. One, when mankind started possessing and owning land. Number two, what does ownership mean? Then, ownership of land in capitalist, communist, and Islamic countries. Next, the Indian scenario: how much land in India and is government land? Then the Kerala situation, and then I'll conclude my presentation, my introduction, with the topics covered by the other participants in the group. First of all, mankind started. When did mankind start possessing and owning land? Prehistoric period, the Homo sapiens, the early men, ancient men, were hunter gatherers. They led a nomadic life. They wanted to, they wanted food to carry on with their lives, so they lived wherever they got food, which could be forests or any other land, or it could be any place where he gets food. He sought new pastures for food when the supply of foods in one particular land was exhausted. He had no special love for any land, or we can say that he loved the land. He loved the land that he lives on at that particular point of time. About 11,500 years ago, the end of dependence on wild berries wild berries, wild grains, and hunted meat is a special feature with the starting of cultivation. And about 10,000 years ago, domestication of animals also commenced, and there was an end to nomadic life. The possession of land became very important, and land available in plenty, but population was very low. So, with in such a situation where supply exceeds demand, we do not expect any disputes. But as the time goes, there was need for ownership, and because the population grew, and increase in the demand for land increased. We come across the first possession theory, or the occupier theory, where it's said that a person could possess the land on which he treads first, that is, before anyone else treads on it. And now, once the land became scarce, the life started centering around the possession of land, and disputes arose. Land becomes a key economic and social asset. The status of a person in the society depended on how much or which land he owned or possessed. And slowly, based on the ethnic, religious, political, and economic considerations, mainly for the protection of protection of possession of land and ownership, nations started rising. Communities became nations, and land laws started getting observed. Either initially it could be oral, subsequently it has become, with the advent of paper and printing, probably the laws were codified and available as for reference at any point of time. And what is government land? When communities grew, communities grew larger and larger, nations arose, and the governments came into existence. Governments started making laws and needed land to house their officers and to develop infrastructure and also facilities for their population. All land is not cultivable all land not cultivated by anyone became the government land. The governments had to take private land from its owners for common purposes, which is now called the acquisition. What do these government lands consist of? The government land consists of public roads, streets, bridges, seabeds and riverbeds, parks, all types of water channels, lands on which most government offices, including parliaments, legislature, court, etc., are located. Land is land not registered in the name of any private individual or any legal entity because is government land. The land has been surveyed. Both the government land and the private land have been surveyed by the governments, but surveys have never been accurate. And now I think with the satellites imaging and all that, surveys are going to be technically more perfect. Now let us look at capitalist economies like United States. First, we'll look at United States, where the total land area is 2.43 billion acres, and the private individuals own 60%, and the remaining out of the remaining 33% is owned by the federal government. And in government land itself, the Department of Interiors owns 70% of the government land, and 24% is owned by the Department of Agriculture. 6% is owned by other departments. In another capitalist country, United Kingdom, total land area is a meager around 60 million acres. The government land is about 50%. And in the government land also, the Department of Forestry owns 67%, and 33% is owned by the Ministry of Defense. Now we will look at what's the situation in Soviet Russia. In Soviet Russia, the communist country, the land area is 4.23 billion acres, very large. They had no private ownership. State owned all the property. Feudal-like peasant economies were there, and land was neither bought or sold. In 1995, the Soviet government recognized private ownership. 2001, the Land Code and the Sale of Farmlands Act was passed. Permits private citizens to own property, plots to agriculture, homes, etc. Here again, the inferior survey quality and zoning regulations still plague the land record system. Now we'll go to the Islamic country. Let us look at the Islamic country, Republic of Iran, Islamic Republic of Iran, where initially there were no, 70% of the owned land was owned by the government, and there was no system of land record, system of private ownership initially, but the remaining 30% were with large elite families, and there were no land laws, strictly speaking. But in 2000, at the end of 1960s, the Shah of Iran, 1950s or 1960s, the Shah of Iran started a land distribution system and distributed about 500,000 acres to 30,000 families. Still, the landlords are a bit cloudy, but there is distribution of land among the peasant cultivators. Now we come to India, where more than half of India's rural household possess no agricultural land, and 200 million possess no land at all. It is said that 7% of Indians control 47% of land. Government owns 13,505 square kilometers. Inventorizing the government land is being made through the Government Land Information System called known as GLIS. Unfortunately, the ministries are reluctant to disclose the surplus land owned by them, basically because they had the fear of losing them to other ministries. In India, out of government land, 37% belongs to the largest railway system in the world, the Indian Railways. That is, majority of the government land is owned by the Indian Railways, 30% by the Defense Ministry, 22% by the central public sector undertakings, and the remaining with other departments. Now we come to Kerala. The total land area is about 39 lakh hectares, about 1.2% of the land area of the country. There are three classes of land. One, the government land, which is managed by the Revenue Department. Two, the forest land managed by the Forest Department. And three, the private land, which belongs to individuals, families, firms, companies, autonomous bodies, and religious institutions. In the Kerala's situation, the revenue land is the revenue land, which is managed by the Revenue Department. The data is available in 1,634 village offices. They maintain 3 registers: the settlement register, the title deed register, and the government land register. And the computerization of all the land records is underway. The project land bank repository of government land through the Department of Revenue and Disaster Management is also on the way. There is continuous demand for government land from socio-political pressure groups and powerful individuals. In the forest land, in the pre-independence era, former Maharaja of Travancore had leased out vast areas of forest to private individuals. Forest Department failed to monitor such forest land, termination and renewal of lease, or collection of lease rentals, and even escalation clauses. These were totally ignored. And there are a number of cases pending to be decided in the courts of Kerala. Further, to complicate the whole system, the banks also accepted such forest land as collateral security for the loans. Acquisition of private land in Kerala has always been difficult because of the shortage of land available. But 3 PSUs, Kinfra, KSIDC, and Kerala State Information Technology Infrastructure Limited, they acquired more than 5,000 hectares of private land under the Land Acquisition Act. There is reduction in cultivable land, and the sad part is that the acquired land was distributed to private institutional sector at throwaway prices, and a large part of such land remains unused. Example is the Aranmula Airport project, which permitted a company in the private sector to construct an airport in which the government has no control, and a large part of such land was government land. The violation of land laws in the company were in the press all the time. There are other examples coming to our own Kochi Smart City project jointly with Dubai Internet City, again with minimum government of Kerala involvement. 246 acres of land acquired at a high price, leased to an SPV with no control on governance, but with just 16% stake. An audit report says, AG's office audit report says, the government is facilitating mismanagement of government land. There are umpteen other examples: Kidathur, Shabarimala Airport project, and Kinalur are a few of them. I come to the final part of my presentation. The second part, definition of government land according to the Kerala Land Assignment Act 1960, will be covered by Fasna. And the definition as per Kerala Government Land Conservancy Act 1957 will be covered by Anjur Thomas Rajan. Paramboku land by Basil Thangachan. Occupant and unauthorized occupation by Aditya Shenoy. Summary eviction by Aslam Kabir. And acquisition for public purposes by Karthik M. Mohan. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, all. Today, the topic which is assigned to me is Kerala Government Land Assignment Act 1960. The act was enacted by the Kerala legislature in the year 1960, which extend to the whole part of the Kerala. Before the Kerala Land Assignment Act 1960 was enacted, in Travancore, Cochin area, the government lands were regulated by the Travancore Cochin Land Assignment Act 1950. In Malabar area, the government lands were regulated by the Grants Act 1895, which is a central government act. To Kerala, the Kerala Government Land Assignment Act 1960 has been enacted to have a comprehensive legislation for the whole state for the purpose of regulating the assignment of government lands. The act contains 9 sections, which is a skeletal legislature. Then let us discuss the 9 sections in detail. Kerala Government Land Assignment Act 1960, Kerala Act number 30 of 1960. The section 1, short title, extent and commencement. Section 2, as always, is the definition section. Then section 3, assignment of government lands, and section 4, the procedure to be followed before government lands are assigned. And section 5, order of assignment. Section 6, bar of suits. Section 7, power to make rules. Then section 8, assignment to take effect with restrictions, conditions, etc. according to their tenure. Then section 9, ripples. Among this 9 section, it is important to study about the 4 sections, that is the definition part, then the procedure to be followed, then bar of suits, and power to make rules. Then let us discuss the section 2 of Kerala Government Land Assignment Act 1960, which gives the definition of the government lands. Section 2, Clause 1 of the Kerala Government Land Assignment Act 1960 defines government land. The following are the government lands. Number 1, all public roads, street lines, paths, the bridges, ditches, dikes, and fence on or besides the same. Number 2, the bed of the sea and of the harbors and creeks below high water marks. Then arises a question, what is this high water marks? The high water mark means the highest point reached by the ordinary spring tide at any season of the year. Then the beds and the bank of the rivers, streams, irrigations, drainage channels. And number 3, all canals, tanks, lakes, backwaters, and water sources. Number 4, all lands wherever situated. These are the 4 classifications or 4 categories of lands which comes under Government Lands Act. Then let us discuss which are not government lands. The following are not government lands. Number 1, the property of Janmis or holders of inams. Number 2, the property of holders of land subject to the payment of land revenue to the government. Number 3, the property of any other registered holders of land in proprietary rights. Number 4, the property of any person holding the land under grant from the government otherwise than by the ways of lease or license. Then land registered in the name of a person who subsequently abandoned or relinquished, and all land held by the by right of escheat, purchase, reception, reversion or acquisition under the Land Acquisition Act are government lands. Then let us discuss section 3, Dada land assignment. Assignment of land means a transfer of government lands on registry to the person eligible and includes by way of lease and a grant of license for the use of land. Government lands includes Purambok, Tarish and forest lands made available for revenue, etc. We already discussed about the legislative history before the reorganization of state. In the Travancore area, the Travancore Government Land Assignment Act 1097. In Travancore Cochin area is Travancore Cochin Government Land Assignment Act 1950. In Malabar area it's Government Grants Act 1895, which is a central government act. We already discussed about this. Now let us discuss section 6, bar of suits. No suit against the government shall be entertained in any civil court in respect of any order passed under this act, except upon the ground that the order is in breach of any completed agreement to assign, or the land in respect of which such order has been passed is not government land, provided that any such suit by a person who was a party or privy to and had a due notice of the proceedings under this act shall be instituted within 2 years from the date of service of the notice of such orders. That means no suit against the government shall be entertained in any court, any civil court, except in 2 cases. That one case is that the breach of the agreement, and other case is other ground is the assigned land which is not a government land. In these 2 cases we can approach a court, otherwise no suit against the government shall be entertained in any civil court of Kerala. Let us discuss the section 4, the procedures. Section 4 of the Land Assignment Act 1960 prescribes the procedure to be followed before the government lands are assigned. The following are the procedures. There are mainly 8 procedures are there. Let us discuss. Number 1, if a government land is proposed to be assigned otherwise than by way of lease or license, the Tahsildar of the Taluk in which the land is situated shall notify that such land will be assigned by public auction and call upon those who have got any claim to such land to prefer their objection to him in writing within the specified period. Then second one is, if any objection is preferred within the time specified in the notification, Tahsildar shall inquire into the same and passes an order in writing either accepting or rejecting the claim and intimate in writing the fact of such disposal to the claimant. Then number 3, if the time fixed in the notification has elapsed and no objection has been preferred, or the objection preferred is rejected and the time for the preferring appeal 30 days from the date of receipt of the order of the Tahsildar has lapsed and no appeal has been preferred, or if the appeal is rejected by the appellate authority, the land may be assigned. Then number 4, the government lands may be assigned on registry for the purpose of personal cultivation, house sites and beneficial enjoyment of adjoining registered holdings. Then number 5, the extent of land that shall be registered in favor of a single family or cultivation by the members of the family shall not exceed more than 1 acre of land, whether wet or dry, in the plains, and more than 1 acre of wetlands or 3 acres of dry lands in the hilly tracts. And number 6, the extent of government land that shall be registered in favor of a family as house sites shall not exceed 25 cents. The assignee shall be liable to pay land value for houses site at the rate of rupees 200 per acre. Then 7th one is, the lands granted on registry shall be heritable and alienable. Then 8th one is, if any person is in occupation of government lands under the lease or by way of encroachment not considered objectionable shall be assigned to him on registry if such a occupation is before the date of August 1971. Then let us discuss about the section 7, power to make rules. The government may make rules by prescribing the manner in which the assignment of land may be made by auction or any other ways. Then qualification of person to whom assignment of land may be made. Then order of priority, about the authority, procedure to be followed, rates at which the land should be assigned, then about the revision by board, then about the forms, what forms are necessary, like that. In all cases, in all such matters, the government can make the rules. The all rules which made under this act should be published in the Gazette. Then all rules made under this act shall be laid before not less than 14 days before the Legislative Assembly as soon as possible after they are made. Then assignment of government land in special purposes are governed by, there are 16 rules made under this. Number 1 is the Kerala Land Assignment Special Rule 1993. Then number 2, the Arable Forest Land Assignment Rule 1970. Number 3, Rule of Assignment of Government Land for Industrial Purposes 1964. Then number 4, Special Rules for the Assignment of Government Lands of Rubber Cultivation 1960. Then Rules of Assignment of Government Lands for Settlement of Agricultural Laborers 1963. Then the Bodhan Assignment Rule 1962. Then the list moves on such as the land for the tobacco cultivation, the cardamom cultivation, then Higher Range Colonization Scheme Rule 1968, the Cooperative Colonization Scheme 1971. Then the list moves on. The rules for sale of lands for the coffee or tea cultivation, the wasteland rules regarding sale of land for coffee or tea cultivation, settlement of scheme Patta rules 1970, Wayanad colonization scheme rule 1969. All these rules made under this special rule. Then there is also other rules such as land assignment special rule 1993 and assignable land 1964 rules. And so many rules are made under this act. And then let us discuss about the priority for assignment or assignment preference 1964 rule, that the landless family whose income not exceeds 75,000. Then for SC/ST, no income limit is there and the assignment is free. Then disabled person while in active military service or dependent of who are killed or disabled in active military service. Then small holders who has not been able to resume their lands whose annual family income does not exceed rupees 3 lakhs. Then person whose annual family income does not exceeds 3 lakhs and total extent of land owned is less than the maximum limit. In all this category, the people have the preference or who has a priority for the assignment. Then if there is any complaint against this, we can give for the appeal. Then Tahsildar is the assigning authority. Then the appeal should be to RDO. Then the revision is done by collector. When the RDO is the assigning authority, then the appeal should be to collector, and revision is by CLR. When the collector is the assigning authority, then the appeal should be by CLR, and the revision should be done by the government. The government can assign land for any person, institution and industry by relaxing the no. Then let us discuss about the stages of processing the application. First stage is the applicant submit the application in the prescribed form to the Tahsildar or any other assigned authority. Then stage 2, the details are entered in land assignment 1 register forwarded to the village officer for the report. Then third stage is village officer enters the details in the land assignment 6 register and conduct inquiry. Then fourth stage is the village officer returns the processed application with 9 annexes. That one is pro forma report, then sketch of the land, then the location sketch, then mahsar, list of assignable lands, then the affidavit in 50 rupees stamp paper, then valuation of the land, then the statement copy, then inquiry report of the village officer. This 9 should be in that report. Then fifth stage is that after receiving the report from the village officer, the Tahsildar prepare notice inviting objections, if any, against the assignment. Then sixth stage is that as per section rule 12 clause 1, notice is published in 3 locations. One is that the site, then second is taluk office notice board for 15 days, then third one is the village officers notice board. Then seventh stage is that place the report before a land assignment committee. Then eighth stage is the district collector approves the list of assignable land. Then ninth one is the after approval, order of the assignment is issued to the party as per rule 9 clause 1, order to pay land value, tree value, arrears, ST charges within 3 months. Then section 10, on receipt of challan, receipt form of the applicants, the pattayam is prepared and issued after entry in land assignment to register. If there is any royalties or such things are there, the royalties must be reserved. Royal trees are and other trees may be reserved if the width is above 90 centimeter. But in the case of the occupied land, no reservation and no tree value for the tree planted by the occupant. When we talk about the rules made under the Kerala Government Land Assignment Act 1960, there are vast number of rules that we already discussed many rules. Then many other rules are also there. When we talk about the lease, rules for the lease, 1964 rule is there. For the part time, there are several rules are there and lots of rules are there. Let us conclude the rule section, then let us discuss the other topic, that is when will be the assignment in trouble. That the wrong assignee, prohibited land, wrong authority, then procedural irregularity, then exceeded the limit, then the assignee violate the condition. In all these cases, the assignment will be in trouble. Then the part-time or lease order cannot be cancelled without giving an opportunity of being heard. Then let us discuss about the issues. The assignment of unsuitable land, lack of proper designing, then the delay, then no measures for the proper storage of the assignment records, then premature disposal of the land, the conditions of issues of patta is seen violated. Then after receiving pattayam, assignee abandon or transfer the lands and encroach a better place in the Purambo can keep the pattayam as an evidence of title in the encroached land. Then when the pattadar approached the village officer or tahsildar after decades to issue a copy of the pattayam but no records are available, these are the main issues faced under this act and all. Then let us discuss what we can do. We all know that the communication is the better key, then the interpersonal relationship, then proper maintenance of the registers, then proper stock files, then for the pattayam, the keep the sketch, mahzar and tax receipt, then the inspection of the assigned or leased land. These all we can do for the better enactment of the act. Then we discussed about the Kerala Land Assignment Act 1960. This act has 9 sections. We discuss the main sections of this act, and we discuss about the issues, about the how to overcome these issues and what are the problems faced, and we already discussed about all this topic. I hope you all understand my topics. That's all. Thank you.
Myself Anju Thomas Rajan. Today I am going to discuss the topic definition of land under Kerala Land Conservancy Act 1957. This act provides for the unauthorized occupation of government lands. The act stipulates that a license issued by the government shall be obtained in order to occupy land which is property of the government, and that in order to remove earth, metal, laterite, lime, shell, etc. from government land, a permit must be obtained. The Act further provides for punishments for occupying government land without authorization, levies of assessment on occupied government lands, penalties for destruction or appropriation of trees, etc. It is amended by Acts 11 of 1971, 16 of 2000, and 29 of 2009. It is an act to check the unauthorized occupation of government lands and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Section 2 of the Kerala Land Conservancy Act 1957 explains that the Travancore Cochin Land Conservancy Act 1951 and the Madras Land Encroachment Act 1905 as in force in the Malabar district referred to in subsection 2 of section 5 of the States Reorganization Act 1956 are repealed. Property of government. Section 3 of the Kerala Land Conservancy Act defines property of government as all public lots, streets, lanes and paths, the bridges, ditches, dikes and fences on or beside the bed of the sea and of harbours and creeks below high water mark, the beds and banks of rivers, streams, irrigation and drainage channels, canals, tanks, lakes, backwaters and watercourses, and all standing and flowing water, and all lands wheresoever situated, save in so far as the same are the property of Janmis, Wagdas, or holders of names or persons registered in the revenue records as holders of lands in any way subject to the payment of land revenue to the government, or any other registered holder of land in proprietary right, or any person holding land under grant from the government otherwise than by way of a lease or license, or any person claiming through or holding under any of the persons referred to in the clauses A, B, C or D are and are hereby declared to be the property of government, except as may be otherwise provided by any law for the time being in force, subject to all rights of way and other public rights, and to the natural and easement rights of other land owners, and to all customary rights legally substituting. Land once registered in the same name of a person but subsequently abandoned or relinquished, and all lands held by right of escheat, purchase, resumption, reversion or acquisition under the Land Acquisition Act for the time being in force are the property of government within the meaning of this section, where the ownership and possession or the possession of any land is vested in the government under section 86 or section 87 of the Kerala Land Reforms Act 1963. Such land shall, so long as it is in the possession of the government, be the property of government within the meaning of this section. In this section, the expression high water mark means the highest point reached by the ordinary spring tide at any season of the year. Lands belonging to the government of any other state in India, or the Kerala State Electricity Board, or to a university established by law, or any municipality as defined in the Kerala State Municipalities Act 1994, owned or controlled by the government of Kerala, or to a municipal corporation, shall be deemed to the property of government within the meaning of this section. All unassessed lands within the limits of private estates used or reversed for public purposes or for the communal use for religious and all public roads and streets vested in any local authority shall, for the purpose of this act, be deemed to be the property of the government. Next, land which is property of government not to be occupied without permission. From and after the commencement of this act, it shall not be lawful for any person to occupy a land which is the property of government, whether a porambok or not, without permission from the government or such officer of the government as may be empowered in this behalf. For the removal of doubts, it is hereby declared that the erection of any wall, fence, or building, or the putting up of any overhanging structure or projection, whether on a temporary or permanent basis, on or over any land aforesaid, shall be deemed to be occupation of such land. Notwithstanding anything contained in the subsection 1, it shall not be lawful for the person to erect or cause to erect any wall, fence, or building, or put up any overhanging structure or projection on or over any land referred to in subsection 1, except in accordance with the terms and conditions of a license issued by the government or such officer of the government as may be empowered by them in this behalf. Any person desirous of obtaining a license referred to in subsection 2 may apply to the government or to such officer of the government as may be empowered by them in this behalf for an appropriate license. An application under subsection 3 shall be in such form and shall contain such particulars and shall be accomplished by such fee as may be prescribed by rules made under this act. Section 6 explains earth, metal, laterite, limeshell, etc. not to be removed from land which is property of government without permit. It shall not be lawful for any person to destroy, remove, or appropriate for himself earth, sand, metal, laterite, limeshell, or such other articles of value as may be notified by the government from any land which is a property of government, whether a porambok or not, except under and in accordance with the terms and conditions of a permit issued by the government or such officer of the government as may be empowered in that behalf and on payment of compensation at the rate prescribed under subsection 2. The government may from time to time by notification in the Gazette prescribe the rate at which compensation shall be payable for earth, sand, metal, laterite, limeshell, or other notified articles of value destroyed, removed, or appropriated from land which is a property of government. Whoever unauthorizedly destroys, removes, or appropriates for himself metal, laterite, limeshell, or other notified articles of value from any land which is the property of government, whether a porambok or not, shall be liable to pay such fine not exceeding 50 rupees as may be imposed by the collector, and shall also be liable to pay by the way of damages an amount equivalent to the compensation which would have been payable if subsection 2 were applicable thereto. Whoever unauthorizedly removes, destroys, or appropriates for himself earth or sand from any land which is a property of government, whether a porambok or not, shall be liable to pay such fine, not exceeding 100 rupees in the case of a first offence, and not exceeding 200 rupees in the case of a second or subsequent offence, as may be imposed by the collector, and shall also be liable by way of damages an amount equivalent to the compensation which would have been payable if subsection 2 were applicable thereto. Whoever abets the commission of an offence punishable under subsection 3a shall be liable to pay such fine, not exceeding 100 rupees where the offence abetted is first offence, and not exceeding 200 rupees where the offence abetted is a second or subsequent offence. The government may remit in whole or in the part of compensation, fine, or damages payable under this section in favour of metal, laterite, limeshell, or other notified articles of value destroyed, removed, or appropriate is for bona fide agriculture purpose or agriculture labourer, means a person whose principal means of livelihood is the income he gets as wages in connection with the agriculture operations he performs. Section 7 explains punishment for unauthorizedly occupying land which is the property of government. Whoever occupies a land which is the property of government, whether a porambok or not, contrary to section 5 shall be liable to pay such fine not exceeding 200 rupees, and B, in the case of continuing contravention, such additional fine not exceeding 200 rupees for every day during which such contravention continues after fine has been imposed for the first such contravention as may be imposed by the collector, provided that a person unauthorizedly occupying a land which is available for assignment under the Kerala Government Land Assignment Act 1960 shall not be liable to pay any fine under subsection 1 if he is eligible under the rules made under the Act for assignment of such land without auction, and he applies under those rules for the assignment of such land in favor of either on registry or on lease. Without prejudice on any liability under subsection, any person who erects or causes to erect any wall, fence or building, or puts up on causes to put up any overhanging structure or projections in contravention of subsection 2 of section 5 shall be liable, on conviction by a magistrate, to be punished with fine which may be extended to 200 rupees, and in case of a continuing contravention, with an additional fine which may extend to 200 rupees for every day during which such contravention continues after conviction for the first such contravention. Section 8 explains levy of assessment on lands which are the property of government unauthorizedly occupied. Levy of assessment on lands which are the property of government unauthorizedly occupied. Any person unauthorizedly occupying a land which is the property of government other than a Porambok and liable to pay a fine under section 7 shall in addition be liable to pay it by the way of assessment for the whole period of this occupation, such amount as may be fixed by the collector in accordance with the rate that may be prescribed by the government from time to time in this behalf. Section 10 explains penalty for destruction or appropriation of trees. Any person who destroys or appropriates any useful tree belonging to the government shall be liable for damages not exceeding 3 times the value of the tree as adjudged by the collector, and shall also be liable on conviction by a magistrate to be punished with imprisonment for a term extending to 6 months, or with fine not exceeding 500 rupees, or with both. Section 13 deals with the power to make rules. The government may make rules or orders either generally or in any particular instances. And finally, going through section 14, recovery of fines, assessment, etc., or as arrears of land revenues. All fines, assessments, and prohibitory assessments, value of trees restored or appropriated, compensating or damaging payable under section 6, and all costs of eviction and removal of encroachments shall be recovered as arrears of land revenues under the provisions of Revenue Recovery Act for the time being in force. Section 20 deals with the saving of suits by persons aggrieved by proceedings under this Act. No suit against government shall be entertained in any civil court in respect of any order passed on this Act except upon the ground that the land in respect of which such order has been passed is not a land which is the property of government, whether a Porambok or not, provided that civil courts shall not take cognizance of any such suit until it shall be instituted within 1 year from the date on which the course of action arose. So that's all about the topic. Thank you.
My topic is Porambok. Government land is the land that are legally owned by a government or government entity. It may be titled at the federal, state, or local level and may or may not allow unrestricted public access. Government land includes Poramboks, Tarish, forest lands, etc. From its rather begins origins connecting a type of land classification. The term Porambok has transformed into something distorted over the years. This term had been in use since the Cholas, denoting stretches of land reserved for shared communal use which cannot be bought or sold. Today, Porambok, however, is a mild cuss word for worthless and incompetence. As per Section 4 of the Kerala Land Conservancy Act 1957, Porambok means unassessed lands which are the property of government, used or reserved for public purposes or communal use of villages. Porambok, which means Puram is outside and Pok is revenue record. Thus, the word Purumbok lands means the lands which is not assessed to revenue records and it is outside the revenue records. This includes rivers and river banks, irrigation tanks, and others. No single individual or group owned these lands and crops were usually not grown in the common Purumbok lands. Purumbok lands includes all public roads, streets, lanes, pathways, bridges, ditches, dikes, and fences on or beside the same. By public road, here means the roads that are being maintained by a governing authority, which could be the county, state, city, etc. Any roads which are part of national or state highway system and those roads titled at local level government, for example, Panchayat Road, dedicated or maintained for public use fall under this category. Any section thereof has a right of access to it. Similar is the case of streets, bridges, and pathways. Streets are public space with residential houses, commercial buildings, and other structures where public access is unrestricted. Bridges are structures constructed over obstructions to highways or waterways, such as canals or rivers, in order to provide continuous and convenient passages for purpose of transportation. A bridge includes the necessary abutments and approaches that makes it accessible. A public bridge is built on land owned by the state government for public use. Next one is the beds and banks of rivers, irrigation and drainage canals, traffic canals, tanks, lakes, backwaters, and water courses. Water resources such as rivers, lakes, canals, backwaters, etc. are used for irrigation purposes, navigation, and other human uses. The state holds such water bodies in public trust for the welfare of this generation and all the succeeding generations. Therefore, any encroachment is evicted. Market, burial grounds. Market is a common place that trades in primary products. Markets or any other place used as burning or burial grounds apply to the local bodies of government that there is no owner or person having the control of such place. Any other properties which government declare to be Purumbok. As per section 5 of Kerala Land Conservancy Act, land which is the property of government not to be occupied without permission. From and after the commencement of this act, it shall not be lawful for any person to occupy a land which is the property of government, whether a Purumbok or not, without permission from the government, as may be empowered in this behalf. The erection of any wall, fence, or building, or the putting up of any overhanging structures or projection, whether on a temporary or a permanent basis, on over any land aforesaid shall be deemed to be occupation of such land, except under and in accordance with the terms and conditions of a license issued by the government or such officer of the government as may be empowered by them in this behalf.
മൈസെൽഫ് അസ്ലം. എനിക്ക് കിട്ടിയിരിക്കുന്ന ടോപ്പിക്ക് സമ്മറി എവിക്ഷനാണ്. 1957 കേരള ലാൻഡ് കൺസർവൻസി ആക്ടിൻ്റെ കീഴിൽ വരുന്ന ഒരു ടോപ്പിക്കാണ് എവിക്ഷൻ. 1957 കേരള ലാൻഡ് കൺസർവൻസി ആക്ട് പ്രകാരം ഒരു ഭൂമിയിൽ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന അൺഓതറൈസ്ഡ് ഓക്യുപ്പേഷനെ പറ്റിയിട്ടുള്ളതാണ് ഈ നിയമങ്ങൾ പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിക്കുന്നത്. അതിലെ സെക്ഷൻ 1 ഓഫ് കേരള ലാൻഡ് കൺസർവൻസി ആക്ട് പറയുന്നത് This act may be called as Kerala Land Conservancy Act of 1957. It extends to the whole of the state of Kerala. It shall come into force at once. Under the section 4 of this 1957 Kerala Land Conservancy Act, occupant അല്ലെങ്കിൽ occupant കുടിയിരുപ്പുകാരനെ പറ്റി പറയുന്നത് കുടിയിരുപ്പുകാരൻ എന്നാൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ occupant shall mean a person actually in possession or occupation of a land which is property of the government. കേരള ലാൻഡ് കൺസർവൻസി ആക്ട് 1957 സെക്ഷൻ 11 പറയുന്ന ഡീൽസ് വിത്ത് ദ ലയബിലിറ്റി ഫോർ അൺഓതറൈസ്ഡ് ഓക്യുപ്പൻറ്റ് ടു സമ്മറി എവിക്ഷൻ ഫോർട്ടിഫിച്ചർ ഓഫ് ക്രോപ്സ് എക്സെട്ര. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് സെക്ഷൻ 11 subsection 1 says that any person unauthorizedly occupying any land for which he is liable to pay a fine under section 7 and an assessment or prohibited assessment under section 8 may be summarily evicted by the collector, and any crop or other product raised on the land shall be liable to forfeiture, and any buildings or structure erected or anything deposited thereon shall also, if not removed by him after such written notice as the collector may deem reasonable, be liable to forfeiture. Forfeiture under this section shall be adjusted by the collector, and any properties of forfeiture shall be disposed of as the collector may direct. Also, section 11 subsection 2 deals with the mode of eviction. An eviction under this section shall be made in the following manner, namely by serving a notice on a person reputed to be in occupation or his agent requiring him within such time as the collector may deem responsible after receipt of the said notice vacate to the land. If such notice is not obeyed by removing or deputing a subordinate to remove any person who may refuse to vacate the same, and if the officer removing any such person shall be resisted or obstructed by any person, the collector shall hold a summary inquiry into the facts of the case, and if satisfied that the resistance or obstruction still continues, may issue a warrant for the arrest of the said person, and on his appearance may send him with a warrant in the form of schedule for imprisonment in the civil jail of the district for such period not exceeding 30 days, as may be necessary to prevent the continuance of such obstruction or resistance, provided that no person so committed or imprisoned under this section shall be liable to be prosecuted under sections of 183, 186 and 188 of Indian Penal Code in respect of some facts. Also, the section 13 of the Kerala Land Conservancy Act of 1957 deals with section 13 deals with the power to make rules. That is, the government may make rules or orders either generally or in other particular instance, which helps the officials such as collector, tahsildar to make easy of the eviction procedure. Kerala Land Reforms Act of 1963 also deals with an act to enact comprehensive legislation relating to the land reforms in the state of Kerala. Under this act, eviction means the recovery of possession of land from a tenant or the recovery of കുടിയെടുപ്പ് from the occupation of കുടിയെടുപ്പുകാരൻ. In the Kerala Prevention of Eviction Act 1966, it also says that Section 8 says that stay of suits or other proceedings of eviction, wherein any suit or other proceeding of the eviction of cultivating tenant, a holder of a കുടിയിരുപ്പ് or a കുടിയെടുപ്പുകാരൻ from his holding, കുടിയിരുപ്പ് or കുടിയെടുപ്പ് as the case may be, whether pending at commencement of this act or instituted after such commencement, the cultivating tenant or the holder of the കുടിയിരുപ്പ് or കുടിയെടുപ്പുകാരൻ makes an representation to the court or the land tribunal in which suit or other proceedings is pending or instituted, that no record of rights in respect of the holding or register of kudiyeduppars in the respect of the area in which the kudiyeduppu is situated, as the case may be, has been prepared and made available to it, and the court of the land tribunal shall not proceed with the suit of proceedings until the record of rights in respect of the holdings or the land in which the kudiyeduppu is situated, as the case may be prepared and made available to it in the court or the land tribunal, shall also by order direct the tahsildar of the taluk in which the holding or the kudiyeduppu is situated to prepare a record rights of respect of the holding, or as the case may hear the land in which the kudiyeduppu is situated, and the file the same in the court or the land tribunal, and the tahsildar shall cause the same to be prepared in the manner prescribed under the Kerala Land Reforms Act of 1963, provided that where the area in which the holdings or kudiyeduppu is situated has been notified the government under the subsection of 1 of section 3 of the Kerala Record of Rights Act in 1968. The court or the land tribunal shall direct directed to prescribed officer under the act instead of the Tahsildar to prepare a record of rights in the respect of the holding or other case may be the land with the Kudagadappa is situated in accordance with the provision of the said act and file the same court in the land tribunal. Conclusion. Under Land Conservation Act of 1957, the summary revision contents are made up through section 11.3 is for 11 subsection 3 is for the use of emergency situation which should necessarily be protected. It may be suitably amended to provide for hearing opportunity, but after summary revisions post facto hearing will also satisfy the requirement of the natural justice. If upon hearing it's found that the eviction was not necessary, the land could be handed back. Till then no property shall be demolished. Such amendment alone will make this section valid in court. Also section 20A of Kerala Land Conservancy Act deal says that no civil court shall have the jurisdiction to entertain suit or proceedings for the eviction of any person who is in unauthorized occupation of the any land which is the property of the government, whether a Purumbok or not, the recovery of any fine assessment or prohibitory assessment or the value of any trees destroyed or appropriated or any compensation or damages payable under this act or cost of eviction or removed by of encroachments or any portion of such fine assessment, prohibitory assessment, values of trees, compensation, damages or cost. Also, it says that the subsection 2 of the said section 20 subsection 2 deals with the no suit prosecution or other legal proceedings shall lie against the government or the board of revenue of any officer of the government for anything which is in good faith done or intended to be done in pursuance of this act or may any rule or order made thereunder. So an encroacher can still approach civil court for relief, a contention that the land does not belong to the government at all or that he is not unauthorized occupation, signing some lease deed, etc. Thank you.